Hello, Com 110 class. Welcome to week 7. This is the lecture on chapter 6. Welcome to my office. I hope you are also finding great places to do your work for this class. That's one of the wonderful things about taking online classes, is that you can really control the environment in which you learn. So please take advantage of that if you're not. Find that place that is very pleasant for you, that corner in your bedroom, in a chair, that great couch, whatever quiet place you can find. Get your coffee or whatever cold drink you prefer. Make it a special time, and learning is going to be a lot more fun for you, I can assure you. As I said, this is chapter 6 for week 7. We're talking about nonverbal communication. Since a lot of you are already stressing out about the speeches that we have to give, I thought it would help you to go ahead and talk about that a little bit. Talk about nonverbal communication as it pertains to our speeches. You may think to yourself, I am always so nervous when I have to give a speech. But you know what? The fact of the matter is, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you're nervous or not. What matters is, are you giving clues to your audience that you're nervous? If your audience doesn't know you're nervous, it really doesn't matter. So we're going to talk about some of the nonverbal cues that you can control to make your audience feel that you are confident and credible and that you're not nervous but in control. Number 1. First impression. Arguably, the first impression people will have of you is what you're wearing. So choose your clothes carefully. Think about the impression that you want to give. Do you want to look contemporary? Do you want to look sophisticated? Do you want to look businesslike? Think about that when you choose your outfit. For the speeches that we're going to be doing, we're going to be business casual. Now that means a collared shirt for the guys, no t-shirts, nice pants, no jeans, and no shorts. For ladies, this means you can wear a nice skirt or pants and a top of some type that looks dressy. Number 2 is posture. You should stand with your hands by your side when you're not gesturing. This position is called neutral. And what this does is it allows people to concentrate on your face without distracting hand gestures that mean nothing or without fidgeting hands. When you gesture, it should be something that is intentional. That means when you say, "Welcome to my office," or you talk about your collared shirt, it should be something that adds to your speech. When you're finished with your gesture, you should return to neutral. Remember what our textbook said about fidgeting hands. Fidgeting actually makes you look nervous and less trustworthy. Number 3 is eye contact. Eye contact is very important because it makes your audience feel engaged in your speech. They feel like you're paying attention to them. So you should look at the camera, but you should also look at all of the audience members that are in the room. That's right, the camera is just one of the audience members, so don't look at the camera the entire time. Make sure to address the other people in the room as well. This leads to the fact that you cannot read your speech. You should not memorize your speech either. What you need, if you need them, is some note cards that have just some talking points that will help you remember where you want to go next. Don't be afraid to use cards. Even the pros use cards to help them remember what they're going to say. But only refer to those cards. Make sure that you can go through a paragraph or so before you need to check your cards so you can be looking at your audience. And practice this. This is not something that you are just going to do the first day that you sit down in front of the camera and in front of your audience and do with ease. So make sure that you practice this when you're practicing your speech. Number 4 is facial expressions. Now your facial expressions are going to be very important, especially when you have a camera right in your face. Now, they're going to be even more important if you're speaking to a large group. Instead of smiling in a slight way, you might decide that you really have to brighten up your entire face so that people in the back rows can see that you're smiling. What about if you're surprised? Will your face show that? I hope so. You know, there are lots of ways to show surprise. You can practice in the mirror if you're not sure how that works exactly. If you're sad, is that reflected in your face? If you're going to be believable and credible, then what you say needs to be reflected in your face. Now, smiling, unless you're talking about orphans or somebody dying in a fire, those kind of bad, sad things, then you don't want to have a smiling face. But try to do that. It puts a lift into your voice, and it also just makes you look more friendly and also engaging. Number 5 is gestures. We talked a little bit about gestures when we talked about posture. We talked about standing with your hands relaxed at your side unless you had an intentional gesture to make. Well, let's talk more specifically about what those gestures should be. They should be something that adds interest to your speech. Let's say you're talking about throwing the football. We want it to be big, not this, but this. Welcome to my office, not welcome to my office. It was little tiny. Even that can be big, right? Little tiny. Number 1. It was this high. It was a little tiny kid. There are a lot of ways that you can get your body involved. Your audience is going to be more interested. And these are things that you're going to practice. Practice them in the mirror. Practice them when you do your speech. And then when you get ready to do your speech in front of the camera, they will come as second nature and look very casual and comfortable. Number 6 is vocal variety. Now think about that. Think about when you walk into a class and the teacher starts to speak and he just talks monotone. Don't you just want to go to sleep or gnaw your arm off? Think about if you go into a class and the teacher has some excitement, some variety in her voice or his voice. Doesn't that make for a more pleasant experience? So think about that when you're giving your speech. What are some ways that you can add interest to your speech by varying your voice? So this could mean going high and fast when you're talking about something that's really exciting. Or it might talk about lowering your voice to whisper when you are talking about something that's very sad. Now, you don't want to leave it down there. If you have a sad subject that you're talking about, don't leave your voice down low. And you just certainly don't want to talk up here, for a long period of time, because that would be annoying as well. But vary your pace, vary the pitch of your voice, and vary the speed of your voice, the rate of your voice. Number 7 is something that's important to me that you may not hear in many speech training books or even in your textbook, and that is the pause. I'm going to require that you have one significant dramatic pause in your speech. We are very afraid of silence quite often in a speech. On television or the radio, it's called dead air. But do you know why? Because it draws attention. Silence is very loud at times, isn't it? So I want you to practice the dramatic pause in your speech. So there will be a time when you will be making a point and you will pause. Our final element, number 8, is take a walk. That's right, movement. Now you're not going to be able to practice this or show this for this speech because you're going to have your camera close enough that I can see your face, that I can clearly see your gestures, right? So you don't want to be too tight that I can't see your gestures when you gesture large. But you're not going to be able to take a walk. And when I'm talking about movement, I'm not just talking about moving like this, which is just fine. And that adds interest. But I'm talking about moving from one side of the stage to the other side of the stage. One side of the classroom to the other side of the classroom. You might deliver one line over here, pause, walk across to the other side of the room, and continue. What does that do? It burns off some of that nervous energy that can just drive you crazy. It also is interesting to the class. They wonder what you're doing, and they wonder what you're going to say next. So practice movement in some of your other speeches that you're going to be doing for some of your other classes. I've mentioned this several times throughout, but practice, practice, practice these elements. Don't lay on your bed looking up at the ceiling trying to memorize and go over your speech. A little bit, that is fine. When you're practicing, practice the gesture. Practice eye contact, looking at the audience members in your class. Practice vocal variety. Practice that, because practice does not make perfect. Right? Perfect practice makes perfect. Or, put another way, practice makes permanent. So make sure that you're practicing it the way that you want it to be at the end. I hope you guys have a great time with your speeches. Speeches can be a lot of fun. And if you just look at it that way, I think you really will enjoy this experience.